Boker Tov. Today's daf is Daf Yud Dalet in Makos. We're already about halfway through Makos, right? More than halfway. Again, we learned for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael Sun Basar V'Shivya. We're at the fourth line on Daf Yud Dalet. We're discussing now Rabbi Yitzchak. What do we have? Yesterday we had the Mishnah which said that you get Malkus on cases where if you were warned about Malkus, you got Asara, even though the punishment ultimately could be Koros. If you did it the Mazid, Koros Min HaShemayim, you get Malkus if you were forewarned about the Malkus. So why we only mention cases of Malkus, not cases of Koros, not cases of Misa B'dei Shemayim, or Misa B'dei Adam rather, only cases of death by heaven, but not cases where Bezdin executes them. So the Gemara said right away, because our Mishnah must go like Rabbi Kiva and not like the others. Who are the others? Well, the first one is Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says you could even get Malkus on a punishment, on a sin for which Bezdin would kill you if you were forewarned about the murder, if you're forewarned that you're going to be executed. But if you were warned for Malkus only, you get Malkus there. That's Rabbi Shmuel's shita, that even in a case where there's a punishment of execution by Bezdin, if you were warned about it in terms of Malkus, you weren't warned that you're going to die. You were warned the way Rava came out. Rashi explained yesterday that it was in the Havamina, we assume that Rabbi Shmuel meant that you can get Malkus and be executed for the same sin if you were so warned. It's mashma like that from the first interpretation. But from Rava, we had yesterday, Rava with the lines turned wide on Amid Beis yesterday, Rava said, no, if you were warned about death, everybody agrees you're only going to get death. You're not going to get Malkus, right? The issue is if you're warned about Malkus. So Bishmol says, even though it's a sin that's punishable by execution, but if you were warned about Malkus, you're going to get Malkus there. Rabbi Kiva says, no, you don't get Malkus in a case like that. You only get Malkus in a case where the punishment would be Koros Min HaShemayim, but not why? Because he bases it on the idea of Risha Achas At Machayva V'lo Shtei B'Shoyos. In other words, since Bezdin has Bezdin is supposed to give you execution for that, you can't get Malkus instead of that. That's Rabbi Kiva. Where Rabbi Yitzchak, the third opinion was, even Chayve Krisus, you don't get Malkos. Why? So we said Rabbi Yitzchak's opinion yesterday in the sixth line on yesterday's daf. Chayve Krisus, but why? Because it was included in the general idea. All the Averis, all these improper relationships. If you do the proper sexual relationships, if you have Mechayev Karis, but then it mentions it again by a choso. Why? And now we're going to explain that in detail. So in Daf Yud Dalet Amud Aleph, at the fourth line, was included with all the other ones. All these various incestual and improper relationships, Yechayev Karis for. So why, when it comes to a choso, was it mentioned again? Mentioned Koros there again. It says Isha Sheikach es achoso basava simo v'nichru. So why did it say Koros there again? Because to tell me only Koros, not Malkus. That's Rabbi Yitzchak's opinion. So Rabbi Yitzchak would say, presumably he would agree with Rabbi Kiva, that where there's execution by Bezdin, you certainly don't get Malkus there. But even in a case where it's execution by heaven, like a case of Koros, you also would not get Malkus from there. Rabbanan Koros b'choso lomeli. So we just quoted this pasuk. Then it says again at the end of the pasuk, so we'll talk about that, but that part of the pasuk later on. But why did it have to say Koros Bachoso? All the sexually improper relationships, there's Koros for. For Rabbanan Koros Bachoso Lamali, L'chalik, to tell you that you're chayiv on each and every one. Let's say you committed a sexual relationship with several of these ervas, several of these incestual relationships, and you're chayiv on each and every one. Just like you're chayiv on a choso by itself, you're chayiv on each one of them by himself, even if you did prep them, even in one spell of unawareness. You didn't know that these things are usher. You thought you're allowed to sleep with all these people, let's assume, right? So that you're chayiv a carbon on each and every one. That's the idea of your Yechayev Karis. Obviously, Hashem can only kill you once, but Yechayev, if it did it the B'shoga, Yechayev a carbon for each and every one. So that's what the other rabbis. Who are the other rabbis? Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva, right? Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva. Shmuel said that you get malchus even on something where it's chayv misas bezdin, where the sin is such chayv that bezdin executes you. And Rabbi Akiva says only on kares, only in a case where you chayv kares, would you get malchus if you were forewarned about the malchus? You had Adam and Asra on the malchus that you're going to get malchus. And Rabbi Yitzchak says no, none of that. The pasuk is telling you, they're telling me, why do you say achosa kares? They tell you that you only get kares and not malchus. Whereas the Rabbanan, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Akiva say, no, it's to tell you chalik. Rabbi Yitzchak l'chalik. How's Rabbi Yitzchak l'chalik? Because it says al isha benidas tumasa. Each and every woman, if you sleep with a woman who's menstrual, l'chayv al kol issues, you're chayv on each and every one. Again, even if you did it with several of them, and we did it behelam echad, you're chayiv on each and every one. Again, a carbon b'shogeg and you're chayiv kares b'mezid. Rabbanan nami typically meha. So why don't the Rabbanan also learn it out? The Rabbanan, you say you learn out the chalik from the choso that says kares there. Why don't the Rabbanan also learn out from el isha b'nes masos? And we're saying echnami, right? The Rabbanan, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Akiva could learn out from that pasuk of El Isha b'Tas Nasa. So what do they need the kares b'chosa for? It's not mechalik. L'chayvo alachoso v'alachos ova v'alachos imo. To tell me, listen to this. Why does it say achosa there? To tell me that you're chayiv on sleeping with your sister and on your aunt from your father's side, your father's sister, and your mother's sister. What do you mean? Pshita, of course you're chayiv in all three. These are three different isurim. One is you can't sleep with your sister. One is you can't sleep with your maternal aunt. One, you can't sleep with your paternal aunt. Of course, these are three separate averas. And if you did all three, you'd be chayiv in each one. Listen carefully. To tell me that what? That you're chayiv. Why did it say achoso? To tell me that you're chayiv on your sister, who's also your father's sister, who's also your mother's sister. How can that be? How's that possible? How could a woman be your sister and your father's sister and your mother's sister? Rishia bas Rishia. To tell me that you're chayiv in the case of Rishia. What does that mean? So tell me that you're chayiv in a case like that. What does it mean? You should. We said, why don't you learn? Lacha, like they know from Elisha ben Samasa. To tell me that you're chayiv alachos alachos aviv alachos imo. You're chayiv for three different isurim with one woman. Now, how can it possible for a person to sleep with his sister, and that woman is also his father's sister and his mother's sister? So I'm going to explain it nice and simple. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a man called number one, and he's a Rasha. He's a Rasha. He's a bad guy. What did he do? He slept with his mother. When he slept with his mother, maybe twice, or let's say she had twins, 2 daughters, 2 and 3. Okay, so who's number one? This man. He slept with his mother, Oedipus, right? And they had 2 daughters, 2 and 3. Now, what are 2 and 3 to number one? Daughters and sisters. So these 2 women, 2 and 3, are the sisters of number one. They're his daughters and sisters. Okay, now, he then slept, let's say, with number 2. He slept with his daughter, who's also his sister, gave birth to a boy, number 4. He's 4. So we have the original bad guy, number 1. We have the 2 bastard girls, the twins, 2 and 3. And now we have number 2. Now he went and slept with number 2, his own daughter. After all, if he could sleep with his mother, I guess he could sleep with his daughter and his sister. He's such a bad guy. And he gave birth to number 4. Now, number 4 grew up in a pretty dysfunctional house, let's call that. So he was dysfunctional too. And what did he do? He slept. Now, let's number 4. We're doing number 4 now. Now, number 4, let's think about it. What is number 4 to everybody over here? To 2 and 3.
Son and a brother.
He's really, well, let's
Son and a brother.
So he's the son of number 1, because number 1 is the father of everybody here. And he's the son of number 2. Number 2. Now, okay, he's the son of number 2. Now. And what's number 3?
It's his aunt.
It's his aunt, but it's also his sister. It's also his sister, right? Right? It's also his sister. So now, listen carefully. So now he slept, this boy this unfortunate boy now slept with number 3. Slept with number 3. What is number 3 to him?
His aunt.
It's his aunt, and it's his sister.
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 How it's his sister? They both had the same father. Number 1 fathered number 2 and 3, the twins, and he also fathered number 4. So now number 4 now slept with his aunt number 3, who is who? It's his mother's sister, because his mother's sister. Number 2 is his mother. Number 3 is her sister. So he slept with number 3. That's his mother's sister. Is it his father's sister? Yes, it is, because they all had the same mother. Number 1, number 2, number 3, and it's also his sister. It's also his sister, right? Because they have the same father. So that's a case where a man slept with his sister, who's also his mother's sister, is also his father's sister. Chayiv all 3. Okay, so that's what they use achoso for, to tell me that case. Rabbi Yitzchak Hamanalei, it says the Gemara back in the Gemara, halfway down the page. How does Rabbi Yitzchak know that halacha? He uses achoso to tell me that what? That Yomi chayiv kores and not malkos, right? What is he? So how does he know this? Nafkle mikavachomer. He learns from Kavachomer. Ditzanan. So Mishnah. Omer Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva says, "Shaltis from Yuli of Rabbi Shua." I asked from Yuli of Rabbi Shua, these 2 rabbis, at the meat market of Imam, that place. They went to buy an animal, a side of beef, I guess you'd say. They went to buy for the wedding of Rabbi Gamliel's son. Nice that Rabbi Shua accompanied Rabbi Gamliel. We had Gamliel and Rabbi Shua didn't always get along. They went together to buy some meat for the wedding. And they asked him this question: if you slept with your sister, who's also your father's sister, who's also your mother's sister, in the horrible case we just described. Mahu. Chayiv achas al kulan, the gear says, are you chayiv 1? Oh, chayiv al kolach, so you chayiv on each and every one. Are you chayiv because he slept with 1 woman? The fact is, it was 1 woman, you chayiv 1, or you chayiv on each and every aveira, for sleeping with your sister, for sleeping with your mother's sister, for sleeping with your father's sister. Amulo, so the 2 rabbis answered him, Zulo Shemana, we didn't hear that case. We didn't hear Allah about that. Aval Shemana, we heard like this. If you slept with 5 different women, and they were all nidas, behelam echad, in one spell of unawareness. Let's say you didn't know that they were nidas, or you didn't know that nida was usher. Shechayv chayv in each and every one. Chayv bring 5 karbonos. We hear that veneer and dvarm kavachomer l'chortz kavachomer. Umani the shehi shem echad marach nida, which is only 1 shem isser. What's the isser nida? Chayv kolach chayv in each and every one. So kan sheshol shems. Now there's 3 different isurim: sister, mother, sister, father, sister. Koshkein shebechayv in each and every one. Ve'idach. And so we say that's how Rabbi Yitzchak would want to explain it. What about the other ones who learned it out from Achoso? It's a refuted argument. What kind of sense does that make? In the case of Nida, you slept with 5 different women, so you're chayiv in each and every act, right? But over here, certainly that's a good guess. That's not a good limud. Whatever Gamliel and Rabbi Shua said, if they said that kavachomer, it doesn't make any sense. Because in the case of Nida, there are 5 different women. Here it's 1 woman. Maybe you chayiv 1. There's another word achoso. That pasuk that we're talking about, Rabbi Yitzchak learns it from. This pasuk says here, you sit with your sister, bas aveth o bas imo. All right, either one, either your father's daughter or your mother's daughter. We'll talk about that. Again, it mentions achoso at the end of the pasuk. Oh, so it says achoso. Learn from that achoso over there. You're chayiv of all 3. V'idach. What do Rabbi Yitzchak do? What does he do with that achoso? V'idach. I'm sorry. So that's Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says, how does Rabbi Yitzchak know that you're chayiv in all 3? In other words, the 2 rabbis of Bishmon and Kiva learn out from the first achoso that you're chayiv in all 3. Rabbi Yitzchak will learn out from the second achoso in the pasuk. Okay. What all the other rabbis do with that achoso? L'chayev al achoso bas aviv u bas imo. To tell me that you're chayev on your sister, who's your full sister. You can have a half sister. What's a half sister? You have the same father, the same mother, or the same mother. A full sister means you have the same parents. So here he's telling you that you're chayev on your sister, who's a full sister. Well, isn't it a kal v'chomer? If you're chayev on your half sister, so then you should be chayev on your full sister. Lo she'ein on shemin adin. You're right. It is a kal v'chomer, but we don't punish based on a kal v'chomer. Ein on shemin adin. So that's why you need the second. And that's what you do with second achoso, because the pasuk says bas aviv o bas imo, half sister, either the daughter of your mother, daughter of your father, or the daughter of your mother. How do you know if it's your daughter of both? It's a kal v'chomer, yeah, but you can't punish based on that. Okay, okay, very good. So that's what, right? That's what the Idach. So that's what the other rabbis are going to use that second achosa for. The Idach, what'll Rabbi Yitzchak do? How will he know Eino Shmeladin? In other words, the fact that it says achoso tells me that the pasuk just says basav basimo, half sister, right? How do I know full sister? From the word second achoso. Okay, that's what they learn from. Okay, so now we see that's what they use it for. But how will Rabbi Yitzchak know that halacha? That Ibay Samagama onish mi asara, because by asara, when back in Yud Ches, when it talks about don't sleep with your half sister, right? Don't say ever spasavi eisha savicha. Oh, basimecha, right? If the don't sleep with the bas eisha savicha, the mother of dar meleta savicha, achos chahi. That second achos teaches me that second achos over there in back Yuches tells me that even if she's your full sister, and therefore we learn out the punishment from the lav. Since by the lav we have a special achos to tell me that even if it's your full sister, it's usher to you. Certainly it's your full sister, it's a kal v'chomer, but you can't base it on that. So learn the owner also based on that. Or I could tell me nafkale me'achoso dereisha, or you could tell me, you know what, Rabbi Yitzchak will learn out from the first achoso. Wait a minute, but the first achoso we started with today is to teach me what? That you only get, so it's only kares and there's no malchus. That was Rabbi Yitzchak's machlokas, right? Remember, Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel both said that the case of kares, you can still get malchus if you're forewarned for you. Rabbi Yitzchak, no, there's no malchus there because it says achoso. Only says by achoso. Why does it say kares there to tell me only kares, not that? So what do you mean the first? Isn't the first achoso already used? The answer is no. Rashi says the top Rashi on the page. It could have just said kikechas bas aviv basimo. Why does it say ish asheikechas achoso bas aviv basimo? The whole word achoso is extra. The first braya was because it says, since it says by achoso kares, it's to tell me only kares, not malchus. Now he's learning because the whole word is extra. Could have just said we know that your father's daughter or your mother's daughter is your sister, right? Your father's mother. We know that. Why does it say achoso? That extra says, teach me that halacha, that eino shmeladin. Ve'idach, what about the other rabbis? What do they do? That how we boil lechalek? What is that achos? Right, that achos is really extra. The word extra is there to tell me lechalek kares lemafatam ulasach. You're not allowed to compound, to blend the shemen mishcha, and you're not allowed to pour the real shemen mishcha on anybody. Right, but it says don't do those. It says al basar adam lo yisachu maskumto, and in its format lo tasu kamo, don't do that. And then it says it's kares, so it says two lavim and one kares to tell me, you know what? Why did it say? But it's only one kares for both. Maybe it's only if you did both. How do you know l'chalik? Did you get kares on each and every one? L'chalik could tell me because I have this extra lachoso. We don't need it over here for the incest of sleeping with your sister. So we're going to apply it there. That's what he uses that achosa for. V'idachal Rabbi Yitzchak know that halacha. Number one, either Savak Rabbi Lazar or Hoshia, the Amar Rabbi Lazar or Hoshia, Komak Mashat Tamot say Shnei Lavin b'Kares. Whenever you find two lavin with one kares, Haluk and Lekarbon. There's a space. It's automatic. It's a rule of learning that when you have two lavin and one kares, you get you chayv a carbon on each every one. You don't have to do both to be chayv a carbon. You chayv a carbon on each every one. Either he holds like a Belazar, that shita, or he by Sema. He takes out. You could learn it. He takes out the words lo savak or blazer, even if he doesn't like a blazer. Naftala, he learns it from these. Isha sheishka ves isha dava. Pasuk says if a man. That's actually the very next pasuk in Perek Chaf in Vayikra. Isha sheishka ves isha dava. If a man sleeps with a woman who is sick, meaning she's menstrual. It says over there, isha dava. He goes of asa. He goes of v'nichrusu. It says over there, karis also. So he says, you know what? It says isha dava. To teach me your chayiv on each and every woman, right? It says there's extra chorus there. There's also a chorus there. So we already know that. All these things are abominations that we said, because she asked me call it tove, so you're going to get chorus for. Why did I say the extra one there? Teach me your chalik on each and every one. And we already know the chalik from the pasuk on Amud Aleph, where we said they both agree, Elisha benidas tumasa from that pasuk. So this is an extra pasuk to teach me this idea that whenever you have two lavs and one kares, you're chayiv in each and every carbon. V'idach. Okay, so that's what Yitzchak will do. He'll learn it out from there. L'chalik. V'idach. How will what will the others do with that pasuk? Visha shirkas isha dava. How we boil like Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan mishum mishum echoi minayin she'eni shebetamaya. A woman who's a need that's not tummy ad she'et say madve derech avasa. It's only if the dam comes out via the vagina. Shenemar v'isha shirkas isha dava v'gila es ervasa. She will expose her erva. Malamit she'eni shebetamaya ad she'asa madve derech avasa. But if it comes out through any other orifice or through any other chamber, it's not tummy. It might be the same blood internally. But let's say, God forbid, she was injured and she had blood inside of her. Had it come out via the vagina, she'd be a nida. But if it came out through some other opening, she wouldn't be tummy. Based on that pasuk, that's what the pasuk is for. That you're only chayiv kares for sleeping with a woman if she's a nida. Based on that. Then the Mishnah said. So we're talking about who gets malchus, and as we said, the Mishnah was only talking about Elaine Alokin. We're only talking about cases, or mostly there are some cases of lav alone, like we said, and Almana, who's also a grusha marrying a Kohen Gadol, to tell me the chiddush that you can be chayiv two things. Each one was telling me a little bit chiddush, but most of the cases were cases of kares. What are some of the cases? We said besides the incestual cases, we also talked about tamei shachos hakodesh. A person's tamei who ate kachim, ate a carbon. Va'abal mikdash tamei, a person who came into the mikdash in a state of tumah, he's chayiv. So tamei shachos hakodesh, says the Gemara Bishlam, abal mikdash tamei. If a person goes into the base of mikdash tamei, that he's chayiv kares for, and as we said in our Mishnah, you get malchus if you were forewarned about that, even though you're chayiv kares if you did it b'mezid. But if you were warned about malchus, you get malchus. We have the punishment, we have the lav. It says that's Mishkan Hashem Timei, right? There it says that if you went in a state of tumah, that's in chukas, right? If a person doesn't purify himself after attending a funeral and he doesn't purify himself and you enter the base of Mikdash, there you said you get karas. Asara, where's the lav? Lo yitamas machaneim. They shouldn't profane, they shouldn't defile their camps. That's fine if you went into the base of Mikdash in a state of tumah. We understand. There's a law to say don't do that, and there's the punishment. But what about if a person who's tumah who ate kachim, bishlam onish? The onish. This is the first of the wide lines of the Gemara. If a person eats kachim like shlamim, and he ate that, as we'll see, they're talking about after shlamim when you're allowed to eat it after zrikas adam, but he ate it in a state of tumah. And who can eat shlamim? Actually, anybody can eat shlamim. Doesn't have to be a kohen. But if you ate in a state of tumah, there's the punishment. If you ate kachim while you're tummy, elas harmon. Where's the losa say don't eat kachim while you're tummy? Where does it say that? Where's the losa say? So we have machlokes here. Rish Lakish and Rav Yochanan. Rish Lakish b'chol kodesh lo siga. Don't touch any kachim. Now it says lo siga. Now who was speaking about this? Pasuk actually was speaking about a woman who's after childbirth and she's in the yomei tahara. She's allowed to be with her husband during those, let's say for a boy, 33 days. First day, 7 days. She's tummy, then 33 days. She's in a state of tahara in terms of her husband, but she can't eat kachim then. Or if she gave birth to a girl, it would be 66 days, a total of 80 days. So it says here, b'chol kodesh lotika, she should not touch. This is feminine. B'chol kodesh lotika, she shouldn't touch it. And Rish Lakish applies that to eating, as we'll see. B'chol kodesh lotika. Okay, that's it. She shouldn't eat while she's tummy. You can't eat kachim. Rabbi Yochanan says this. Tani Bardala. Bardala was a Tana or a Chacham at that time. Rabbi Yochanan said the Bardala learned like this: Asi Tamaso Tamasa. We have Xavier Shabbat. Ksivacha v'Tumaso Olav. We just said Hanefesh Shetachal Basam Sefach Shlam v'Tumaso Olav v'Nichrasa. V'Ksiv Hasam, and here it says Tamayia O Tumaso Bo. Again, the person who was after touched a dead body and he doesn't purify himself. Tamay O Tumaso Bo. Right, so there we have there's the tumah, there's the lav, right? And we have the punishment of tumaso when it talks about getting kares, the pasuk in Vayikra Zion. So tamiya o tumaso amalal and onish v'asara, just like where there's an onish and a punishment, right? Afkan onish v'asara, just like there we say there's an onish and asara where by going into the base of Mikdash, you shouldn't go into the base of Mikdash. If you go into the base of Mikdash, there we just explained there's an onish and a hasar. The punishment is listed and the lav is listed. So here also, when it comes to eating kachim while you're tamei, the punishment we saw is there already, but there's a lav also, just like kachim. In other words, there's a Xavier Shava between entering the base of Mikdash while you're tamei and eating kachim while you're tamei. So Bishlam Mishloach Shlomo Rabbi Yochanan didn't know like Rabbi Yochanan Gzeira Shava lo gomer. He didn't learn that Gzeira Shava. He didn't have in his lists of Gzeira Shavas. He didn't have that one. So he didn't learn he didn't have the Gzeira Shava. So he learned it from B'chol Torah Shlikim. El Rabbi Yochanan my time Elam Kashagosh. Why didn't Rabbi Yochanan learn very simple? Why did he have to come into the Gzeira Shava? Pasuk B'chol Torah Shligosh. You shouldn't touch any kachim, and that presumably we see that means even eating. Rabbi Yochanan will say Ahu Asar L'Truma. That's an Asara. That's a lav. You shouldn't eat truma, not kachim. Truma is holy, but not as holy as kachim. That's a law for truma, not for kachim. It's not talking about kachim at all. How does Rav Shlokish know asara for truma? Nafkalei says like this. Pasuk says, ish mizera Aaron. Anybody from the seed of Aaron. Now the seed of Aaron doesn't say zichrei kun. It doesn't say the boys. Who can eat kache kachim? Kache kachim. What is kache kachim? Ola. Nobody eats that. That's holy bird. Chatos, asham, mincha. Right? All those are kache kachim. Who can eat them? Zichrei kuna. We say it every day in Karbanos, right? Who eats them? Zichrei kuna. The boys, the males of Kohen, they eat kachim. But ish mizera Aaron v'utza ruzav. If you have any child, zera Aaron, from if he is saras or zav or tuma, ezo davar shushav b'zar. What item can Kohanim eat? But all Kohanim can eat it. Truma, because women can eat truma also. If you have truma, your wife, your children, right? Your avodim and shechlas can all eat your truma. So what is it? It's not talking about kachim, because kachim cannot be eaten by the women. But truma, yes. Avi Omer zu truma. It says ish mizera Aaron. That's truma. Okay, so that's how you know. It says ish mizera Aaron zav shouldn't eat truma. Like he says, it's speaking about truma. That's what Rish Lakish said. Rish Lakish, that pasuk speaking about truma. Okay, very good. So why does Rabbi Yochanan use that for truma? That's pretty clear that it's truma. Why does Rabbi Yochanan say that B'chol Kodesh is speaking about truma? Learn it out from ish mizera Aaron zav shouldn't eat it, because we're talking about truma. So ida chahula chila. Rabbi Yochanan will say they're both speaking about truma, but B'chol Kodesh L'tziga is speaking about don't touch truma while you're going, while you're tamei. Don't touch truma. And this pasuk is this: don't eat truma while you're tamei. So they're both speaking about the kohanim. One says don't touch truma while you're, and certainly if you're a non-kohen, you can't eat truma, and you shouldn't touch it if you're tamei. But even a kohen should not touch truma if he's tamei, and he shouldn't eat it. Two psukim: don't touch it and don't eat it. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, pasuk b'chol kodesh is about touching truma, and according to Rish Lakish, it means don't eat kachim. Rish Lakish. So Rish said no. B'chol kodesh l'siga is the lav for don't eating kachim while you're tamei. So the Gemara now asks, is it really true? B'chol kodesh l'siga is that what it's for? B'chol kodesh is thinking that you shouldn't eat kachim. How we boil the tamish and naga b'kodesh. We needed it. Rav Shapiro himself uses it, as we'll see, for a person tamei who touches kachim. Pasuk says b'chol kodesh lo tiga, don't touch it. So how does Rish Lakish know that it also refers to eating? It says the martamish and a tamei who touched kachim. Rish Lakish Omer loka, you get malchus for it. Rabbi Yochanan Omer ain't loka. He doesn't get malchus for it. Rish Lakish Omer loka. The pasuk says b'chol kodesh lo tiga. Don't do it. Don't touch it. You touch it, you're chayav malchus. Rabbi Yochanan ain't loka. And why? Because Rabbi Yochanan said that pasuk's not speaking about kachim. Ahu lasar l'truma also. That's telling you that don't touch truma. But he's not talking about kachim at all. There's no malchus there. There's no specific malchus for not touching kachim. Now again, Rabbi Yochanan said not eating it. We know from tumaso. You can't eat kachim while you're tamei, but not touching truma, not touching kachim, we don't know. But the fact is, over here you see that Rish Lakish uses b'chol kodesh lo siga to tell me that you shouldn't touch kachim. So how does he know that it also includes you shouldn't eat kachim? Right? The answer is tamish and naga b'kodesh min after chomer l'shnagia. The fact it says b'chol kodesh lo tiga, so that's why he knows you shouldn't touch it. And ashara la'och. How do we know? Where's the ashara for eating? Because iskish kodesh lemikdash. Because in that pasuk it says b'chol kodesh lo siga vel hamikdash lo savo ad lo simei Torah. So there, because since it's hekesh, so it says b'chol kodesh lo tiga vel hamikdash. We have a hekesh between kodesh and mikdash. Now, when you go into the base of mikdash, everybody agrees if you're tamei, you're chayiv kares, right? Right. So therefore we see it's kodesh lemikdash. Rashi in the wide lines in the in the first of the wide lines, in the middle there, it says Midis Kishkoros Kiddush, Bahikra. Look at the wide lines in Rashi. Bahikra B'chol Koros Siga Vel Mikdash Lo Savo, V'dashin L'Kaman, Ma Mikdash Yesh Basar, it's just like Mikdash, this clearly we're talking about an Asara of that you're going to be executed for. Right, Shabal Mikdash Tamei Bakaris, not executed by Hashem. Right, we're talking about a sin that you're chayav misa for. Afas Horos Kodesh also davar sheish bar nitil seshama b'hainu achila. That's eating. Sha'anar shalav karis ilam negiya lo karis, like a karis. See, b'chol karis lo tiga. If you just Rish Lakish says b'chol karis lo tiga, the words itself means don't touch it. And if you don't touch it, okay, you get malchus. But if you eat it, right, since there's a hekish between called kodesh lo tiga and the same pasuk vel mikdash lo savo, that we're talking about the same kind of a thing. What's the yisr here? We're talking about the achila, because there's a hekish between kodesh and mikdash, and just like by mikdash, you're chayiv misa if you went in. B'chol kodesh also something you're chayiv misa for. You're not chayiv misa for touching it. You're chayiv misa for eating it. Akati lochidasa. You still think b'chol kodesh l'siga is only for what? Touching it and eating kachim. I mean, but that's a special isser. For teaching me that you're chayiv kachim if you ate it before it's rikas adam, when nobody's allowed to eat it. The itmar tamishachal basar kodesh l'fnei rikas adam. The tamei person ate kachim before it's rikas adam. Rishlakisham loka, you get malchus for that. Rishlakisham loka b'chol kodesh lotiga. You shouldn't touch it. Loshon l'fnei rika, loshon achras rika. You shouldn't touch it all. You're chayiv malchus for that. Rabbi Yochanan ena loka. The Rebbe says you don't get loka. Why? Rabbi Yochanan tamei ta'amar kra tumaso. The pasuk talks about how do we know that it's usher to eat kachim while you're tamei? How do we know? Because we'll learn out from Tamas and Maso. B'chikisiv Tamas and Maso. Lachas we could have said there. It's talking about what from Achil. When everybody else is allowed to eat it, but you ate it while you're tamei. That's only when you're allowed to eat achar zrika, but before zrika you're not chayiv at all. But Rish Lakish used it to teach me that you're chayiv if you ate basar kachim before Zrika Saddam. The answer is Hahum b'chol kodesh nafka. He learns that from the words b'chol. Why do I say b'chol kodesh? In other words, we have b'chol kodesh l'siga. B'chol teaches me you're chayiv even on even if you eat kachim when it's not even allowed. It's not really kachim yet. It's not it's kachim, but it's not. You're not. It's not normally to be eaten then anyway. Even before Zrika Saddam. That's b'chol kachim. And then b'chol fact that it says lotiga means that it says a lav. You get malchus for touching it. And from the fact that it says in that same pasuk. B'chol kodesh, and it says mikdash. That teaches me you're chayiv for eating it because we're talking about an isser that you'd be chayiv misa for, and for touching it alone you wouldn't be chayiv misa. You'd only be chayiv malchus. So therefore we know that you can't eat it also. So Rish Lakish learns it all out from that pasuk. So again, how do we know that you can't? That what's the isser of the lav of eating kachim while you're tamei? Rish Lakish learns it all out from b'chol kodesh l'siga. Rabbi Yochanan learns it out from Tamaso. Tanya was Rish Lakish. We have a riot to Rish Lakish, what that we're learning it out from B'chol Kodesh L'Siga these Isurim. From this brisa, we have a brisa like Rish Lakish. Pasuk is B'chol Kodesh L'Siga Asara La'ochel for eating it. That's that you shouldn't eat it based on that. Ata Omer Asara La'ochel Oena Asara La'nogea. Because remember, according to Rabbi Yochanan, the whole pasuk B'chol Kodesh is simply telling you can't touch truma while you're tamei. Not even talking about kachim. He says over here, maybe it don't mean like this is the hekish that we pointed out in Rashi before. It's just like going into the base of mikdash involves something that's punishable by death, by kares. So here also we're speaking about the whole kodesh lo siga. We're talking about something which involves a punishment of death. And if you want to talk about touching, they're all elabachila. So there's a proof we're speaking about chila. So again, Rabbi Shlokish learns out everything. B'chol don't touch kachim based on lotiga. B'chol teaches me that you shouldn't eat it. There's an issur to eat it. Chayav malchus. If you eat it before it's rikas adam, when it's not really edible as kachim yet. And if you eat it while you're tamei, that's b'chol kodesh. Lights on Chol Mikdash Lo Savo, that comparable to coming into the base of Mikdash while your tummy is chayiv, something you're chayiv misa for. The same thing, B'chol Kodesh teaches me also you're chayiv misa for, and that couldn't be alone touching it because touching is only malchus. It must be achila, which you're chayiv misa for. Amarabba, we're just going to deal. This is a preamble to tomorrow's daf. We all know that there's something called lava nitikli asay. You're not supposed to, let's say, leave over a kachim till the next day, right? Most karbanos, you're only eating for one day and one night, except for, let's say, shlomim, eating for 2 days and a night, or meiser, or a bechor could be 2 days and a night, right? But when you can't eat it anymore, you're supposed to consume it all by then. Let's say you left it over till the next day. No, sir. But you should start if you burn it. So it's like a lav, nitikli asay. It's also a lav sheba ma'isa, but we're not going to get into that. But in general, we know a lav that can be corrected. It's a nitek that can be mitukan al yedei and asay. You don't get malchus for. That's only if the lav is written first. You first have to do the lav, like don't do something. And if you did it, this is how you correct it. So here Rabbi wants to say, oh, Rabbi Avachan Rabbi Yochanan, kolos shekadmul asay. If the asay was before, then you would get malchus for it. When you don't get malchus, lav netik said that you don't get malchus for is only if it's a lav you did this sin, and if you did the sin, this is how you can correct it. Especially that's a lav netik say you don't get malchus for. But if the assay was before you did the lav, then it's not a lav netik say, and you would get malchus for that. And this Gemara will be described. We'll go into detail tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody. Culture.
And you spoke about this brother and sister and the mother and the father. Is that be the same comes from keeping it in the family?
You got it straight? I tried to list it by 1, 2, 3, and 4,
But it raises, I actually have 2 questions.
Yeah.
One question is with the full sister and half sister.
Right.
This is something Gemara doesn't consider the fact because of the 1, 2, 3, 4, right? That's all those things behel echad, right?
Yeah.
When you sleep with a full sister,
Mhm.
you're doing 2 averis with behel echad, because someone's a full sister is the daughter of the father and the daughter of the
Right. But that's we don't
They
say
don't
that.
do it.
No, because it's right. Because that's not it's both, right? It's a kavachomer. It's still only one sister. It's only one sister to you.
But the same thing is 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, so no, but 1, 2, 3, 4. But in that case, there's 3 different names. In other words, I'll explain it like this. In the case where she's your full sister, she's still your sister. There's no such thing as half. It happens to be that the definition of a sister could be a half sister or it could be a full sister, but it's still a sister. In the case of 1, 2, 3, 4 that we described before, this woman is your sister. She's also your mother's sister, and she's also your father's sister, which are 3 separate isurim in the Torah. The Torah says, don't sleep with your sister. Torah says, don't sleep with a married woman.
It's a separate isur when it's your father's daughter, and it's a separate isur.
No, that's one
No.
sister. No, it's still called sister.
One.
The sister could be defined. No, the sister's Pasuk says you sleep with your sister, who happens to be either your mother's sister, your father's daughter, or your mother's daughter, still called sister. Still only one shame, sister. And that's the difference. Then it's a sister. A half sister or a full sister is still a sister. Doesn't make any difference, right?
But why does Gemara try so hard to find the full sister?
Oh, because since it says you're the daughter of your right. If the Torah would have just said achoso, your sister, so maybe you wouldn't have known how to define it, or maybe you would have defined everything. But since the pasuk says half your mother's daughter or your father's daughter, maybe both. So obviously, if it's your full. If it's a sister, she's the daughter of both your father and your mother, certainly. But the point is, it ain't no adin. That's why we need a special pasuk to tell me. But the chiddush itself. So why didn't the pasuk? So you'd say, why didn't the pasuk just say achoso, and we'll know that? Why don't you say achoso, all sisters? This to teach me ain't no adin. To show me that it has to say it. You need to say a special achos to tell me that in other cases in the Torah. You can't use a kal v'chomer for that.
I have a similar question with the negia and achila business.
Yeah.
Is negia only with the hand? What if you touch with the foot?
No, it's same thing.
What
Touching.
if you touch with the mouth?
It's same thing. Touching any part. Touching is touching.
Isn't eating touching?
No, it's more than it, but no. No. We have that in many cases. Touching is touching, eating is eating. Eating is worse. Now, we have many cases. How can you eat something without touching it? Somebody stuck it into your throat, right?
But your throat is touching it.
No, but that touching is only on the outside, not in the body. What's inside isn't touching. If you had tum inside your body, it's not touching. Touching means touching with any external part of your body.
So
it had to be with the epidermis part of your body.
Well.